So welcome, good morning, and welcome to the Employability Skills Series, where we look at the top skills employers are looking for in candidates. Each week, I interview a variety of professionals from various industries to get their thoughts and insights on these topics. I am your host, Megan Morrow, Senior Associate Director of Experiential Learning and Employer Relations. And today I have Deborah Russell, the Talent Acquisition Supervisor for Lutheran Services Florida, to talk about conflict resolution. Mrs. Deborah Russell is, like I said, the Talent Acquisition Supervisor for Lutheran Services Florida. In this role, she has three talent acquisition specialists who report to her directly. In her role, Deborah assists Lutheran Services hiring managers to find talent throughout the entire state of Florida. Lutheran Services is a nonprofit faith-based organization with over 65 programs that serve 1 in 50 Floridians. Deborah's educational background is in Tallahassee Community College, where she received an Associate of Arts and concentration in retail. Florida State University with a Bachelor of Science, Textile Science, and Merchandising concentration in Business Administration, and St. Leo University Master of Business Administration concentration in Human Resources. Mrs. Russell has made herself a lifelong student and coined the phrase, "You can learn something from everyone if you just listen." So welcome, good morning again, and how are we doing today?
We're doing well. I cannot complain. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. That's awesome. So, Deborah, we've been on a couple of these calls together. Love speaking with you and hearing your thoughts and insights because you've got such a nice background and lots of experience and lots of good stories to bring to our students. So today we are talking about conflict resolution. So just in your own words, can you just kind of walk us through what that means to you and how you define that?
Conflict resolution, I feel, should be centered around emotional intelligence.
Mhm.
Regardless to the topic or the people that are involved, everyone has their own personal feelings, and they all need to be taken into consideration when you're talking about navigating the path, the conversation, and finding a resolution. With that same thing being said, you also have to take into accountability someone's triggers. So, screaming and yelling could be someone's trigger. And even though that's how you communicate in your family or in your space, someone else can see that as threatening. So, conflict resolution has to be mindful and intentional at all times.
That's great that you talked about emotional intelligence because I think that that is something that, first of all, is paramount to be successful in business, especially if you're in a position of leadership. But to understand emotional intelligence, I was on a call. I don't know if that was you that was we were talking about it, but but for those that are listening, like how you are and the way that you handle things is affects people. So this goes hand in hand with conflict resolution. So that's a wonderful thing that you brought that up to say that your emotional intelligence is how you kind of handle situations and being self-aware
Mhm.
and how people around you are perceiving you because
Right.
perception is reality, right?
Correct. It
Yeah,
is.
and then so you talked about people having different, situations and they have different experiences. So can you talk a little bit more about that and why that's so important to embrace that and be aware of that?
So everyone comes to work as themselves. You like to say, "Hey, leave home at home," but that doesn't really matter. Like that's not a thing. People are going to come to work with their triggers and their traumas. So if you were brought up in a space where screaming and yelling is a trigger for you, you're almost to the point where no one can raise their voice at you because it's going to take you back to that moment. And
Hmm.
so when you're communicating with someone, if you just remain professional, then you don't really have to worry about those triggers and those traumas because being professional means not talking down to them, not being condescending, not being abrasive or brash. You're speaking about the facts, you're taking the emotion out of it, but you're being mindful of the words you're using. So you're not going to use, off color jokes. You're not going to use derogatory terms or tropes. You're literally going to acknowledge their name, say what the problem is or situation is, speak about how you guys can navigate it, and then you find a resolution that works for you both. So it's not really a argument or a give or take. It's communicating. This is what I feel. This is what I see. Same person does there. Where can we find a mesh or a bridge?
Hmm. No, that's great. Yeah, I love that because you take the emotion out, which is not easy all the time, especially if you're
Correct.
invested or if you
Correct.
feel slighted, like if it's been a
Yes.
personal thing to you.
Hmm.
That is really difficult. I know I've had to do that myself where it's like I'm holding it in and I feel like a duck, like I'm calm outside, but my feet are paddling underneath the surface of the water. So like my insides are just churning with anxiety and with discomfort because I'm not one who enjoys, confrontation or something like that. But if you just let it go, it's going to get worse, right?
So I have a suggestion.
Okay.
And it's about communicating. So let's say you and I get into a disagreement and it's getting elevated. I would say, you know what? Let's take a pause because right now my emotions are all over the place and I need to regather my thoughts. Can we come back to this at 3?
Hmm.
I'm not telling you what we need to handle isn't not important, but I'm telling you in this space, I can't do it.
Hmm.
That is emotional intelligence. But to push
Excellent.
through and have that anxiety, your stomach's churning, you're getting anxious, you may explode. And once it's out, you can't take it back in.
Nope.
I always think of it as like you know, when you're saying the wrong thing, it's literally like your projectile throwing up in that person's face. You can wipe it off, but it still happened.
It still
So in order
happened.
for me not to have that issue, you know what, this is too much for me right now. Let me table this, get my thoughts together. I've even said I don't have any words right now. So let me get my words together and then we can come back to it today or let's schedule time tomorrow. Because then that gives you a chance to really sit with your thoughts and then sit with your feelings. Is this really about the issue or is there something else that they did 2 years ago that I never really let go and now it's back?
Mm.
So it gives you time to actually take the emotion and think first.
See, that's really great because I don't think that people think that they can do that at work. I think about,
Mm-mm.
personal relationships. I know where, like, like if you're getting heated with your children or getting heated with your significant other,
Mm-hmm.
I've had no problem saying that exact thing. Like, hang on a second. We need to pause. I need to cool down. Let me go for a walk. Let me think for a second so I don't say something I regret. You
Mm-hmm.
can absolutely do that in business as well. And like you said,
Yes.
that demonstrates amazing emotional intelligence to say,
Yes.
I want to be able to hear you, but right now I'm way up here and I can't. I'm not processing. I can't hear you. I can't be a calm member of this
Right.
conversation because my emotions are too high. So that's excellent to
Right.
know.
Right. You can most definitely do it. If anything, it's going to make them feel like, oh my God, this person is really trying to communicate. They're not going to just keep letting this brew. They're really mature. And that's going to earn you a level of trust that you can't even imagine. That is a trust builder because they know if something goes awry and you're on a business trip or they're on vacation, they're going to know that you're so level-headed. They're going to be like, yeah, Deborah's level-headed, whatever, she'll figure it out or
She'll
I'll
figure
deal
it
with
out.
it when I get back. Like that gains you trust.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So I kind of equate this too to like we've all heard about love languages, right? And
Yes.
how people come to a relationship and how they like to, how they like to be loved and how they express love. Well, it's the
Hmm.
same thing when you argue or disagree. You have a fight language. And this goes back to what you were saying a little bit earlier with people coming in with triggers.
Yep.
Like if you have you need to know and you need to know your own particular fight language. Are you
Yes.
someone who, like you said, are you just going to power through? Let's just get it all out. I actually have a good colleague of mine that she was saying this just the other day. She's like, I know I can come across as abrasive, but like I want the information. I want to just get it all on the table. And let's be uncomfortable for, the next 15, 20 minutes and just like hash it all out. That way we can be done with it, put it to rest and then move on. But then you might have someone who's like me. I'm very introspective. I need to think. I choose my words very carefully. I'm not someone who just off the cuff is going to start, blah, 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 like verbal vomiting all over you. I want to be very intentional of my words. Now, that doesn't make mine right and hers wrong or vice versa, but that's our fight language. And so when you know that about the person that you're communicating with, then you can actually have really successful, productive conflict resolution.
So I will tell you, conflict resolution can also bleed into other spaces. So
Okay.
because she says, "Nope, I want to be uncomfortable. Let's just bang it out," and she admitted she knows she's abrasive. That's not professional. So she knows that that's a problem, but she's not willing to work on it. That's dangerous because depending on where she's at in the leadership poll, she can be turning off employees and having them walk out the door because she's so confrontational. She's so abrasive because if she's going back and forth with someone that's less, they're going to feel like she's coming down on them. They're going to feel like it's suffocating and they may just clam up and say, okay, all right. And now they're dusting off their resume to find another job because she didn't give them a chance to get their thoughts together so that they felt that they could really communicate their feelings and what their intention was. They just kind of let her rain on them. Because if I don't, then she's never going to let me go. She's never going to stop this until I just let her have her way. So that's very dangerous as a fight language.
So if you were dealing with someone like that in your place of employment, how would you handle that?
I would say to them, I understand that you like to kind of head on it with it, but I don't have any words right now. And I want to be able to interact with you in this conversation because we're not having a disagreement. We're not arguing. We're just having a difference of opinion. And I can't get my thoughts together with you at this time. So I need time to think. And then, so can we meet back today at, whatever time works for you?
Hmm.
But I would stop it as my barrier, as my boundary, because if not, then they just rain on you. And that
Hmm.
person that's getting rained on, they have every right to go to HR because you rained on them.
Hmm.
You have to let people be themselves. You can't expect everyone. She's not using emotional intelligence. I know I'm abrasive. I don't really care that that's a bad thing, and I'm going to do it anyway because it's who I am. Versus saying, I know I can be abrasive. So if this is too much for you and we need to take a pause, let me know. But I want to bang through it. Totally different than we're
Hmm.
going to be uncomfortable for 15 minutes and bang through it. Give that person out. You can still be the way, but you need to give them an out.
Okay, I like that. Yeah, because it's not just one person leading the conversation. It
Correct.
needs to be both of you that are being productive and getting through it. Because, I mean,
Correct.
healthy relationships have conflict, whether that's a work
Yep.
relationship or a personal relationship. If you're
Mhm.
never at conflict and you're never kind of butting heads, then it's a very superficial, relationship that you're
Surface level.
having.
Yep.
It's very surface level.
Mhm.
And so you have to be able to have a safe space with the person that you are working with, whether it's someone who you're reporting to or someone who's on your team, or if you are the one in a position of leadership and you're having to bring someone in. So, those are some really great pieces of advice, Deborah. Um, can you talk to me about a time maybe that, and I'm hoping I'm not putting you too much on the spot, like about maybe about a time where somebody didn't use conflict resolution productively and maybe how that negatively impacted you or your team?
Um, Going back to a previous employer, we were doing inventory
Hmm.
and I was new to the store. So I didn't know the layout of the land. And it was my first time doing inventory because I was in my first year. And
Hmm.
so, because I had been like killing it on the sales floor, my team was breaking sales records. None of the other sales managers wanted to help me. They were kind of just like, she figured everything else out. So, whatever. So, all my maps were
Jealousy.
drawn wrong because I
Hmm.
didn't know. And I'm using the things that I learned at Florida State when we're talking about doing inventory. It was still the same type of thing, but I used the wrong shape. And so I didn't do a map. So you didn't know if this was a T stand or a wall display. Everything to me, it made sense. To
Hmm.
no one else knew what was going on. So when I drew my maps and the agency came in to tag everything, they just were lost. So,
Oh
needless to
no.
say, nothing was in sequential order. Everything was all over the place. And so, when we came in at 4 in the morning to do inventory, I was like, oops,
Oh
sorry.
no.
So, my inventory took longer than it was supposed to take. And so, when my boss pulled me in, she was very upset. And she's like, I'm so disappointed in you. Why would you draw your maps wrong? So I let her say what she needed to say. And I said, well, I need you to know that I did not intentionally draw the maps wrong. I asked 3 of my 5 counterparts for help. All 3 of them told me they would get with me. And when I went to them, because they didn't get with me, they told me they'd get back with me. So, and I did that twice with each person. So 6 times I asked for help and got none. You couldn't give me help because you weren't here. So I had no one to help me draw my maps properly. She doubled down and was like, well, you should have gotten resourceful and called another store.
Hmm.
I could have. Or you can understand that my counterparts didn't do what they were supposed to do and help their partner.
Yes.
And so she just kept raining down on me. So finally I said, so what would you like for me to do? And she was like, what? I mean, she's just like, ah. And I said, so what would you like for me to do now? And she's like, well, what? We're here. It's 6 in the morning. Maps are wrong. We can't get the counts properly done. So where do we go from here in this space? Well, then figure it out. I'm asking you because I don't know what to do.
Yeah,
And
I'm
you, as
asking for
the
help.
manager,
Yeah.
what would you like for me to do? And she's like, well, we need to redo the maps. Okay, let's redo the maps. So the fact that I was able to not let her make me mad made her madder
Mm.
because I was like, I'm not going to let you ruin my whole entire day. It's not like I purposely decided, you know what? I'm going to draw all 10 maps wrong. And then I'm going to come in and make everybody have to work longer because that's what I'm here for. No.
No.
And I knew that she had other things going on outside of work and it was too much and she couldn't separate the two. So later on, I did go back to her and I said, I just want you to know that inventory was rough for me, and I'm going to be putting in my notice. And so she understood why, because it was more political than I wanted it to be because of where I came from and what I was doing. And I was like, I'm not fighting you guys. You can have it. Yeah. I'll go work
Mm.
somewhere else.
So that's a valuable lesson too, because you just because you're an employee, just because you reported to that person, it's not that they don't own you. They don't get to talk down
No,
to you.
they
They
do
don't get
not.
to berate you. If somebody is in
Correct.
a position of leadership, then that's what they should be doing, is
Correct.
leading, which it does not sound like you got that support and you did exactly what was best for you.
Now she did come back 5 years later, 7 years later. She found me on Facebook and she apologized profusely.
Oh,
So we went
wow.
to lunch and we
Mm.
talked it out. And she said, and I didn't know, I knew she was going through something, but I wasn't sure. So I think her and her husband were in the midst of trying to figure out if they were going to get divorced. And
Oh.
so it was like a rough 3 years for her. And it was right in the middle of that. So,
Yep. Unfortunately, though, I mean, like I know you said like you can't necessarily always check your baggage from home when you come to work, but in a position of leadership, you really don't have that luxury to have the wheels fall off and then displace it onto your team because you're going to have people,
correct.
good people like you, who are like, no, I am not. You will not
Yeah.
treat me this way, and I'm going to take all
Yeah.
my talent and all my
Hmm.
value and all my resources, and I'm going to
Yeah.
go somewhere else where I'll be treated fairly
I will pick all my toys up and go to another sandbox
all day long.
all day long.
All day
And
long.
twice
Yeah.
and twice on Sunday.
And
Like
twice.
I'm just not doing it. Because you
No,
have
but
to think about
it's
it. You know
important for
your
students to
value.
know. Yeah, it's important for students to know this too. Like, do not have false loyalty.
No.
If you are not growing and your skills aren't being used, and especially if you are being mistreated in
Mhm.
any sort of way, you attempt to maybe resolve it. If it doesn't, guys, go somewhere else. Now, do what Deborah did. She put in her notice. Always do it
Yes.
professionally.
Yes.
Yes.
Put in your notice and work your notice. That is a
Yes.
thing. It is now a thing where people say, up, I'm out of here and I'm not working a notice. And you're like, I get that you don't want to come back, but here's the thing. You never know who knows who, right?
Yes.
And then when you quit on an employer, they do reference checks and they're going to say they're not eligible because they didn't give notice. So that new employer is going to be like, well, what if they get mad at us? They're not
Yep.
going to give us. Then they start questioning that trust. And it hasn't lasted long enough for it to be secure. It's like superficial trust. So you
Mhm.
don't want bad references. You don't want bad recommendations. So if you're going to leave, leave on the high note. So that way all they could say is, we decided to part ways. They put in a notice and they are eligible to be rehired.
100%. That was actually something my speaker just said in my class earlier this week. Like, leave professionally,
Yeah.
don't burn professional bridges. And in the next interview, when somebody's talking, hey, why did you leave this last position? Never badmouth your previous employer either. That's probably the kiss of death in an interview.
Oh my goodness. I can't tell you how many times people have like tried the jury, and like it's a court case now. I mean, they start talking about everything, and you're like, I just asked you why you left your previous employer.
Yeah.
I didn't need you to roll out a deposition and witness statements. Like, I don't need all of that.
No.
But that's when you can see that they're really traumatized. And then
Hmm.
it makes the new employer say, do we want to bring someone in with this kind of baggage, or are they the problem? Were they the issue? Like, it takes away from what you bring to the table, and now they're trying to figure out if they can handle it. Again, not a positive thing.
Not a positive thing. It's like you're almost bringing the conflict with you to the
Correct.
next place because you're gonna need to dust your jeans off, leave it behind. Just
Yes.
tell your future employer, I was looking for a better opportunity. You can even say like, there was just some differences of opinion, and
Oh, definitely.
we just could not see eye to eye. So I opted for a better opportunity for me.
I have used that several, I think I use it every time when I leave because I work really hard. And I've only quietly quit one time in one job in my whole career. And when I leave, I say managerial differences because either there's no room for growth. So I've been in this role, I'm killing it, can't get promoted, and my raises are like 50 cents. I'm not staying here. Or it was they got new leadership and the new leadership changed everything. So I'm not even doing the job I was hired to do. And I'm not making any extra money. I'm not doing that either. So I
Yeah.
have no problem telling them managerial differences with a professional reason so that they don't just think, oh, she got pissed off and left. No,
No.
I had rhyme and reason to make sense to make that decision.
So that's very that's very applicable to say that for the students on the call whenever you want
Yes.
to leave. Just leave professionally, do it
Mm-hmm.
within whatever your company standards are. It's a 2 week or 4 week.
Mm-hmm.
It's typically just 2 weeks. Um, but yeah, leave, do it. And Florida's a no fault state. So you don't even have to explain. You can just say effective today, this is my 2 week notice. Thank you for the
Correct.
opportunity, blah, 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 and be done with it.
Correct.
Um,
And you never know. They may call you back like, listen, we messed up. We're sorry. Will you come back?
yes, that would be awesome. Let's go back to how about a time where somebody effectively used conflict resolution and how that positively impacted you and your team? Or maybe it's
Positively.
something you did.
Okay, so we have an HR manager. They're now called HR business partners. And there were a couple of hiring managers that didn't understand you can't just ask off the cuff questions in an interview. That's illegal. So they were
Whoops.
asking people like how old they were. One girl looked like she could have been, expecting. Can't do that. And so what she did was she pulled each one by one and she gave them the list of approved interview questions, illegal interview questions, and then she role played with them. So one of the
Ooh.
people had been in leadership for a while. No, I'm going to say they were in management because there's leaders and there's managers.
Oh, big
So
time.
this
Huge
person had been
difference.
a man huge. So this was a manager and they had been around, they're in their 60s, so they've been in management 30, 40 years and they know everything. So you, younger person than me, can't tell me anything.
Hmm.
And so they were very brash, like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. But they were the biggest culprit
Hmm.
because they were just asking all these questions like off the hip. And so finally she had to say, this is what is allowed and this is what's not. And they were like, well, um, I'm getting the right people. And she said, if you continue to break company policy, I'm going to have to write you up. And so they were like, oh, you're threatening my job. And she says, no, I'm doing mine.
Oh, oh, I like that's powerful.
There's nothing, where am I going to go with that?
Yeah.
So that person was like, okay, so I can see that you're just trying to get me. Not at all. I'm
Nope.
trying to do my job.
Yep.
And she
Trying to
left it like
develop you.
that. So when that person complained, oh, she's out to get me. And they said, well, why do you say that? Because she told me she doing her job. And they and they quoted her. She doing her job because I can't say these questions. And da, 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 da. So the person they went and told, and they were like, well, you can't. That
That was
person
probably
resigned.
like, ah,
They
what now?
resigned. They resigned. And it was time. If you can't take feedback, I'm not even saying it was abrasive. I'm just saying she said, this is what's allowed, this is what's not allowed. All of these questions you're asking are on this side. You can't ask these questions. And that person was like, but it's getting the job done. She said, but it's illegal. And I have to do my job and enforce company policy. And
Hmm.
if you're not willing to obey my company policy, you don't want to work here.
Correct.
So you fired yourself. She did nothing. So for me, that was a win.
That's pretty powerful.
Yeah,
I love that. I'm just doing my job. Yes, I like
I'm
that.
literally doing my job.
Yes. I get that because I can see that too sometimes even with my students when maybe they're, trying to, they didn't turn in an assignment and now the window's closed and then they want to come back and be like, well, I have it now. I want to turn it in and I have to hold firm to my policy because if I hold one student accountable for it, I have to hold all 150 students accountable for it. They could be
Correct.
like, oh, well, you just don't like me, or you're being, too rough or you're whatever they might say. Like, no, this was lined out in the syllabus. This was explained in class. There's been several announcements. I'm sorry that you missed the deadline. Now, moving forward, there's no emotion in it. It's not personal. Moving
Right.
forward, do better. Here's some suggestions to help you. And hopefully a good leader would do the same thing. Like, yes, like with the inventory, instead of saying, here, you kind of, you messed up, but how did I fail you maybe as the leader to support you? How are we going to move forward to do better? But instead, they didn't do that. You quit.
Yep.
Um, and the same with this other person who was effectively using conflict resolution. The other person couldn't handle it because they
Yeah.
wanted to do what they wanted to do. And so then
Yeah.
they quit.
Yeah. I will tell you, I had a professor that held me accountable and I didn't like them. Oh, they were not their name. I will tell you that. I called this man everything but his name, but I grew up that day.
Mm,
I grew up that day because he did not allow my tears to move him. I mean,
hmm
I was like ugly crying snot and everything. And he was just like, do you want a tissue? They made it even worse because now you're not even letting me use like that was my superpower. I was in theater, so I could cry on cue and I do
hmm
my thing. And he's like, uh-huh, uh-huh, no, no, you were nodding your head. You were giving me the yes. And he's like, no, I was acknowledging that I hear you speaking and I understand what you're saying, but I cannot let you submit late work because you didn't have internet when you could have submitted it 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. So
hmm
you waiting until the last minute was on you. And that's when he hit me with the a lack of planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on mine. And
Ugh,
this was in like 2000. So I was so angry because he was right and there was nothing I could do about it.
nothing. Yep. That
Nothing.
that's emotional maturity on your part. It's okay to be
That-
mad in the moment, but as you look back, you're like, nope, I was wrong,
yeah. So,
and that's what
but
we try to do.
I
Yeah.
grew up that day. I no longer waited until the last minute. And if I knew something was going sideways, I was the student that was in your inbox first day. Hey, you need to know who I am. My name is Deborah. I'm the single mom. I'll be asking you questions, so don't ignore my emails. Okay, thanks. Bye. Like
Bye.
every semester.
No, I love it because you're getting ahead of it,
Yep.
and I hope that my students feel that same way whenever I hold their feet to the fire as well as too. It's like, I feel you, I understand, and I'm with, I can be empathetic without
Yes.
bringing down my boundaries and without,
Correct.
saying, okay, well, I'm going to now let you walk all over me. And I always tell them all the
Mhm.
time, do not confuse my niceness for weakness. You know,
Correct.
I'm very empathetic. I'm here with you. I feel you. But at the same time, too, Deborah, we're all going through something, right?
Correct.
All the time, you
Yes.
know? So you've got to learn how to kind of go with that. We are up on our time. So if you had one nugget of wisdom or one last thing that somebody could take away from this call about conflict resolution, what are your parting words of wisdom?
Choose your words and always make sure they're centered with emotional intelligence. Choose your words carefully.
Powerful, easy and powerful.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me on this call and talking about this because we are all going to deal with conflict. If you walk around this world without ever having conflict, then you have no deep relationships. You know,
Correct.
yeah, you're just operating on the surface, and
Yep.
you're not going to get anywhere with either your personal relationships or your work relationships. So, like Deborah said, choose your words wisely, lead with emotional intelligence.
Right.
Another thing too, I think we could have taught, always if you're coming to a situation with a problem, come with some solutions in mind as well.
Yes.
And that'll
Yes.
help. Yeah, here's
Yes.
the issue here, but here are some things that I've thought about that
Hmm.
might help move us forward. So that's another thing that
Right.
we could probably go on about that in another 30 minutes.
Yes. Yes. You
All right.
can.
Well, thank you again. And students, thank you for joining us. Again, this is Deborah Russell talking about conflict resolution, and we will see you guys next week for our final call, which is going to be, I don't even remember what our topic is, but you're my guest again. So we'll have one
Okay.
more this semester, and that'll be it. So thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Have a good day.
All right. Bye, everybody.